Little red thing is there. There we go. We're also transcribing. So once again, welcome to Gmail training. And let's get started right away. I'll share my screen. In case you were wondering if there's a PowerPoint deck or a Google Sheets deck or a Google Slides something, whatever, no. I really like to do my training sessions with a real-world environment, as is this one. And we're just going to go through a whole bunch of things that make sense and that hopefully make sense and that would be of interest to all of you. And since it's recorded, you can always play back. One tip, while I do things, don't do these things with me. I go through certain steps getting to where I want to be. It's not the smartest thing to open up your Gmail right now and do exactly what I've been doing, because I'm going to show you a whole bunch of things, and it's up to you to pick the one that makes most sense to you. First and foremost, I quickly want to discuss something that's actually not that much about Gmail, but I do recommend, and that is that you work with a Chrome profile. As you might know, you can have multiple profiles in Google Chrome. It's still small, but later on I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger. And these profiles help you switch between different Gmail accounts. You might have a personal one, you might have one from Perkins, and if you don't do that properly with profiles, the things get mixed up. So you might be in your personal mail and then click someplace else and all of a sudden be in Google Drive belonging to another account. This is something that I'm not going to go into, but I quickly wanted to show because I'm going to be working with multiple Gmail environments. My own personal one in this dark looking Chrome window, the main one in yellow, and there's another one in red that we're going to be playing around with a little bit. So if you see that the Chrome window is of a different color, that means that I'm actually logged on to a completely different Google account. That's for later. Let's start with this. And that's the default setup of Gmail. After you've logged in, this is what you get. And I'm pretty sure that most of you have been tweaking this a little bit already. You've probably already gone into this little gear icon up here and went into, hey, what can I do? If you're really advanced and you picked another logo, background picture or changed the colors around a little bit. And maybe you've done a couple of things there. Actually, it's something that most people do. And it's also something that's worthwhile knowing about Gmail. It is crazy customizable. You can basically create your own environment if you want to. So no way of working with Gmail is the default best, works for anybody way of working with Gmail. There's a couple of things that you can do and basically make it work for you. So that's what I'm going to go into. And like I've said before, it's not that I want to say like, this is the way you should be using Gmail and everything else is wrong. That's definitely not the case. There's multiple versions of doing that. The first one I want to show you is the one that I have in my own environment. This is my own personal Gmail. And as you can see, at this point in time, I've got one label on the left-hand side, and that label is called Auto. It has nothing to do with automating anything. It's Dutch for car. And I've recently bought a new car, and I wanted to have all the mails that have to do with my car to be labeled with car. And that's all. And now that I've got my car, I basically take away that label. I don't want to use it anymore, so I remove it. And that's where you get my email environment. And as you can see, there are no labels. I don't use labels whatsoever at all. So my way of getting to an email, and let me tell you, there's lots of them, about a decade of emails in here, is always going to be search and only search. I don't do folders. Is it wrong to do folders in Gmail? No, it's not. If it's the way you want to organize your life in mail, then that's perfectly okay. But do note that Gmail, it's a Google product, was built to have very powerful search capabilities. So what I want to get into first is search. What most people don't really realize is that Gmail doesn't store its emails in folders at all. So even if you think that you've created folders on the left-hand side of your screen, they are actually not. Not even inbox is an actual folder, and that requires a little bit of an explanation. Most people think that mails are stored in folders in the same way as files are stored in folders as well. In the old days, I don't know if there's anybody long enough in IT to remember, but in the old days, DOS, Windows, that kind of stuff, the really old days, you had your directories and your folders in there. And there was always this structure of a folder with subfolders and organizing everything in there. That was a great way of doing it, but it was also quite limited. The reason it was limited was that you had to think ahead. You basically had to think about your future and your future needs of finding something. And I'm pretty sure that if you've created labels or folders in your Gmail, you were thinking ahead a little bit. You were going like, so how am I going to organize my emails in such a way that when I need to find something later on, that I can find it by clicking on the right label or folder in the left-hand side? Well, Gmail being a product from Google makes for a very powerful search engine, and that search engine is up top. So if I type in something like NASA, for example, they just launched the rocket, I would get all the emails with the word NASA in there. As you can see, they have made it yellow to note where it was found. And it's good to note that this search doesn't really care where these mails are. Actually, as far as Google is concerned, these mails are all in the same box, in the same container, so to speak. That's where everything is. And by default, whenever you do a search, you'll search through everything. Google search is so powerful that people get confused by this. They sometimes go like, yeah, but if I do this, I get way too many search results, so it doesn't work for me, right? But yeah, that's basically you not being specific enough in what you're searching for. Because this bar up top here is actually quite powerful. As you can see, now that I've clicked on it, it already says, do you want to search for NASA news? Can you see that that's in gray out over there? If I press tab on my keyboard, then news gets filled in and I get a more dense number of search results because I'm searching for more and I will be getting less search results. The same thing can also be pulled up if you click this icon over here, and that will allow you to be very specific about what you're searching for. So I could, for example, say, I want to get the mails with the words NASA and news in there. But I could also say, I want certain words to be excluded. So I want NASA and news, but I don't want Mars. And then I won't get emails with Mars in there. Note that Google searches throughout all of the content of the email, including the attachments. So if there's a Word document or a PDF or a Google Drive document that is attached to the email, and that document has the word NASA or news in there, then it would still show up in your search results. That's why you sometimes get search results that don't really seem to make much sense in the first place, because it actually found the word someplace completely different. So you can also search for words specific in the subject, to whom it was sent. This could be very handy if you want to find an email that was sent to somebody in CC, for example, where it was from, the size, when it was sent, and you can actually also specify a little bit where to search in specific labels. A really important one to note is the has attachments. Often, if you're searching in email, then you're actually looking for mails with an attachment, and this little tick box will have you do just that. If I click search right now, note that the whole search is here in this bar now. So what I've been clicking on in this menu has been translated by Google in searching for NASA and news minus Mars has attachment. I could also just type in has attachment to get all the emails with attachments. And note the speed at which I'm getting my results. It's almost instant. There's never really a wait. Whenever you do a search, Google also brings you these little boxes up top that actually are kind of smart. They give you certain extra steps that you can use to find, for example, unread mails with an attachment. So getting to the right mail is often done faster by doing a search than by managing everything with folders on the left-hand side of your screen. Actually, there are no folders in Google. And this is another big thing where a lot of people tend to have to figure out what it actually is and how it works. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be creating a label here. And I'm going to name the label Artemis. I was quite impressed by the rocket that NASA sent to the moon yesterday. So I thought, you know what, let's make that the theme for this training. And as you can see right now on the left-hand side of the screen, I've created that label. I can give it a color, make it blue. And what most of you probably do if you want to put an email in the folder Artemis, you pick up the email and then you start dragging from right to left to Artemis, and then hover above Artemis, let go of your left mouse button, and your mail has moved into the folder Artemis. You've been played by Google at this point. Nothing I've just told you is true, because what you've actually done is quite different. Let me jump back to my inbox and show you. What you can see here is that there's a mail over here that has that Artemis label. It's not a folder, it's a label. And when I open it up, I can see up top, I'll circle around it with my mouse here, that it has two labels, Inbox and Artemis. And this is the key to understanding what Gmail is all about. Mails are not being placed in folders, they are being labeled. And a single mail can have multiple labels. So if you want to do it the googly way, then you pick up the label and just drag it to the mail you want to give that label. It's way easier to do. You'll make less mistakes and you'll have the flexibility. For example, I could do another label here called Mars, make that red because, well, red planet. And I could also give that same email the label Mars. If I click on Mars, I will find that email and Google will show me you've searched for label Mars, but it also has Inbox and Artemis. And actually, this allows for using less labels than you would ever need folders. So for example, if you've got a repeating substructure in your folders, then it's way easier to do that with labels. Another big advantage of using labels is that you can immediately see what's going on. And there's obviously numerous ways of automating this as well. Another trick, you can select multiple emails by ticking these boxes. And if you drag a label to your selection, these mails will immediately get that label as well. So whether or not you call them labels or folders, just know in the back of your head that these are actually labels. And a lot of people might now think, what about that inbox label? How does that work? And how can I use it to my advantage, especially cleaning up my inbox? Because I'm pretty sure there's a couple of people listening now that go like, yeah, that's all nice and that's all good, but I like an empty inbox before I go home at night. Or if you work from home, before I close my computer. And that's actually very true. And it's true for me as well. I like my inbox to be dealt with and done. And there's actually a quite sophisticated system in Gmail to get that going. So bear with me and I'll show you that. First of all, make sure you understand that whatever Google was thinking about, it was actually centered around search. And with a label, you basically give Google an extra clue to finding stuff. You could say, and this is kind of an IT term, that creating and adding labels to emails is actually providing extra metadata, as they say. You're giving an email an extra reason to be found by adding that word or that topic or whatever it was to it. So back to creating a clean inbox and the inbox. If I click on inbox, I don't open up the folder inbox. Actually, under the hood, I do a search. I ask Google, get me all the mails with the label inbox. However, I can't see that label. But if I open up a mail, it's there. So if I take it out by clicking on this little cross over here, then we've got this lab-grown meat startup gets FDA stamp of approval. But if I go back into my inbox, that mail is no longer there. However, it was also labeled as Artemis. So if I click on it, the label Artemis, the mail is still there, but not with the label inbox anymore. This is an archived email. Google feels that if you've archived an email, you've removed the inbox label. And some of you are now thinking, where did it go? Well, nowhere. It is at exactly the same place as where it was before. It's just not being found anymore if you search for inbox by clicking on inbox. So that's a big differentiator. But how can I find it now? Well, if I search for meat, there's my mail again. And you might now think, what if I forget about the fact that the word meat is in there? How will I find it? And some people then have higher heart rates and panic attacks and potential depressions and all sorts of things. And they want to walk towards windows on high-story buildings. Don't do that. Your mail is still there. The best way to get to all of your email is to click on the left-hand side of your screen, click on More, and there you will find an option called All Email. And if you click that, you'll get everything. This is basically searching for nothing. So the results is everything. And this has no use whatsoever. That all mail function on the left-hand side there is only to make sure you sleep at night, to really prove to you everything is still there, don't worry. But if you want to really clean up your inbox, well, the best way to go and do that is just select all of your emails and then click on this little icon called Archive. And all it does is take off the inbox label, the result being absolutely nothing. So my mail is still here. Everything is still to be found. That mail is also still there. And if I click on All Mail, everything is still there. It's just not in my inbox anymore. So why would you archive? Well, for having a clean inbox, basically. If something is dealt with and done, you archive it. You still have it. You would still be able to find it. You could even categorize it using labels, but it's not in your view anymore. So many people like this. But I'm not like many people because I don't like it at all, because I found a way that is actually a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is put the inbox label back on my email so that my inbox is filled up again, because what I want to show you is something different. You've probably noticed that we've got these tabs up here, and that's actually a little bit of Google Smarts. It's basically inherited from the free version of Gmail that will, for example, put advertisement mails in promotions and everything from Facebook under social. And everything from your Google Calendar will be in updates. And if you are subscribed to forums, that stuff will go over there. I really don't like that function. If you want to use it, fine. But I've chosen something else. And I'm going to walk you through that. And this is actually, for many people that I've taught this to, kind of a game changer. So first of all, I'm going to click on the gear icon in the top right-hand side of the screen and scroll down a little bit. And that's where I will find an option called Inbox Type. And as you can see, I've got it at default at this point in time. I could say, for example, let's do unread first. And that would give me a box that has all my unread emails. And then a little bit lower, I find everything else. And that's obviously the stuff that I've already seen. I could also say, I want to have the starred emails first. You've probably already figured out that you can give an email a star. And if you pick this option, then the mails with a star will be on the top of your inbox and everything else will be down below. But for many people, there's something weird going on. And that has to do with that unread. I'm pretty sure that in this group that we've got here tonight, for me tonight, for you this afternoon, there are people who work like this. A new email. Let me have a look at that. Oh my, it's really important. Let me mark it as unread so that I will remember that I haven't seen it yet, and therefore there's some strange thing going on in your brain there where you thought to yourself, hey, you know what? I'm going to make an email unread to mark it as something I've got to do still. Well, there's way more sophisticated options for that. First of all, there's the star. If you were to say, this is interesting, give that email a star, click on start on the left-hand side, and you would get all the mails that actually still need something to do with. The point is, it's kind of chaotic. And actually, starting out with Gmail about, well, over a decade ago, this was my life. And I was always a little bit uncomfortable. There's so much going on. There's labels, there's read, there's unread. I've got stars. It's chaotic. I couldn't really find my comfort zone there until I found this one. If we click on settings, we scroll down, there is a priority inbox. And bear with me, keep your eyes on the screen. Don't do this in your own systems yet, because this is the coolest thing in Gmail. This will give you multiple boxes to sort out your email. So what I've got up top now is important and unread. A little bit lower, everything starts. A little bit lower, everything start again, and then everything else. So this still needs a little bit of customization. So I'm going to go back to my gear icon, and I'm going to go back to the priority inbox and click customize. And when I do that, I can actually dictate what's going to be in these 4 sections of my inbox. And what I do is important and unread first, then normal unread emails, then everything with the star, and then everything else. But this is how I set it up. I'm going to save that down below. And this is what my inbox will look like. I can actually close these things to make it a little bit more readable for everything. So if I get a new email now, it will end up in important and unread or in unread, depending on whether or not Google thought it was important to me. And that marker is right over here. If I hover over it and I wait for a little while, if you've got good eyes, you can now see that this is marked important according to Google Magic. And that's actually Google trying to figure out how I work with email and therefore figuring out what's important to me or not. That's actually quite interesting concept. So emails I respond to a lot, people I work with a lot, those will automatically be marked as important. If it goes wrong,
that one.
I'm sorry?
I hope that I'm included as important for you.
Yeah, here you are, Ricardo, important, even with a star, so no worries whatsoever. However, if it makes a mistake, and if it brings this to you as important, and it's not, it's actually kind of smart to just say, no, Google, you've done that wrong. And Google will learn from that. After a while, it won't mark these messages as important anymore. Everything else unread is right over here. Way more, all unimportant emails. But I can now just go through these things. I could open up this email and think to myself, well, it's good to know, but it's not important, so I'm going to go to the next one. Whoa, this is a really important one. I need to follow up. I'm going to give it a star. Next one, not important. Next one, not important. Not important. Sorry, Ricardo. Not important. Not important. Not important. Until I've read all the important email messages in my inbox. And as you can see, they're still under unread. That's a thing that Google built on purpose, because if it was immediately placed in everything else, you would lose track of it. But if you click refresh, then it says, woohoo, you read all the important messages in your inbox. So now I'm going to do everything else, the unimportant ones. And I'm going to go really quick because there were a lot. But once I've done all of them, you will see that all that stuff is marked as red as well. And if I refresh again, then my inbox, oh, there's even more. I'll mark that as red as well. Then my inbox will eventually be nice and clean. The only thing that I've got left is the stuff that I've starred. And as soon as I take away the star, then it will also leave this little section. So it's like a cascading thing. Mails come in as unread. You star them if they're important to you. And if they're no longer starred, it's something of an archive. Using this thing will actually help you get a really clear, nice overview of your inbox. You can really go for something like this. And whenever something new comes in, you've got a nice, cleaned up system that helps you keep track of everything. Is it going to be the thing to go for all of you? Probably not, but I just wanted to show it because it's a really powerful thing, especially if you've got loads of incoming email that you need to stay on top of without having to put them into folders. Because the whole concept is that whenever I actually want to do something with an email, then I would still go in and give it a label. And giving it a label would still give me the option to get it back quickly by clicking on that label. Still with me? Any questions so far? I know it's a lot and it goes fast, but
we had one question earlier about the search.
I missed that completely.
And it was, does the search apply to a PDF? If you're searching for a word, will it find it in a PDF?
Yes. Yes. Google has already done a demo where it even is able to recognize what's in pictures in emails. So if you were to have a picture of a car and search for car, it would still find the email because it recognizes a car. That's how powerful that search is. Not yet in Gmail, working on it. But yes, it will also search for text in PDFs, even in pictures. If there's readable text, it will index it and be able to find it. This is where most people get a little bit confused. The search is so powerful that you tend not to trust it anymore. But that's also why you need to properly use search. You need to learn how to ask for something specific, what you want. If I were to be in a work environment, as I obviously am, I still don't have labels. Because I learned that the mails I need most are mostly not older than a month. And whatever I need, I just type in that bar up top and it will get me the emails that I'm after. And it takes a little while, but it saves a lot of time. And that's where it's such a big game changer. So it's a powerful thing, and I would definitely recommend you to play around with it a little bit. Just do a couple of these searches. See if you can find what you're looking for. It's way smarter than you would think if you were to deal with it in the beginning. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll quickly continue with half an hour left.
So when you search, Eric, will it will it take out these pool or kind of categorized sections?
Well, the labels, do you mean? Or
no, the important and unread, the unread.
Yeah, you can search for important emails. You can search
but if
for
you
start.
search, if you search for any email, will it just show a list of results, not categorized?
No, unless I ask for it. So this one, for example, if I hover over it, you can see that this is start with purple / question, and this is red bang. I could search for has red - bang, and it would give me only emails with a red bang in front of it. So you've got these possibilities, but that's a little bit on the advanced side to do it like this, but you can do it. Searching within a label is actually quite easy. Just click on the label and then do the search, because you will then immediately search for everything within or that has the label Artemis in this case, because it's mentioned over here. Is that an answer to the question?
Yeah, that showed me what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Can I ask one more question regarding?
Go for it.
If you click on all the mail and then hit archive, then whenever new mail comes in, it will just go in the inbox, correct? So that's also
the behavior you're describing is correct. The words you're using to describe the behavior are not correct, because there's nothing happening in the inbox. It gets the label inbox. But you're right. Whenever a new email comes into your Gmail system, it gets the label inbox. Therefore, it shows up on the list of search results, clicking on inbox. So yeah. So even if you archive everything, let me do that. I'll just select everything and then hit archive. Note that it has all these inbox labels over here. So I'm going to select all 215 in this demo environment. Click on archive. It says, this is a bulk action. Are you sure? Yes, I am. And then it takes a little while, and then the inbox label is gone and my inbox is completely empty. However, if Ricardo were to send me an email right now, it would still show up in my inbox.
How come on my email I don't see the labels on the far right? Is that a setting?
I don't know. It's a good question. We would have to take a look. It should be there. It should be under all the way on the left down below. There should be this labels thing. It might not show immediately. I don't know. It's not able. You're not able to turn it off or such a thing. So something weird is going on there.
Yeah, if there's something that you're not seeing, we can certainly reach out to the help desk. We can certainly help with that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to do something that's a little bit outside of Gmail, but it's too cool to not do. And it actually has to do a little bit with Chrome. So what I'm going to do now is something that's kind of advanced. So bear with me and use the fact that this is recorded if you want to do it yourself as well. First, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to open up a brand new tab. And now I'm going to type in GM and the space. And then it says search Gmail. And if I now type in NASA and hit enter, I will immediately get to my mailbox in a new tab and get the search results for the word NASA. This is crazy powerful, because wherever I am on my browser, as soon as I type in GM space and something, so let's do moon, I immediately get to the search results for that. It is something that's not enabled by default. You've got to build it. And I'm going to show you how to build it now. I'll go through it once. If you want to do this yourself, you've got to redo the recording. So you take a new tab, you right click on a place where there's nothing, and then you click Manage Search Engines. Then you go back to your mail and you actually do a search. So what I'm going to do is search for Artemis. There we go. And I'm going to take this URL and copy it. Then I go back to my settings and I create something new. I create a new search engine by clicking on add over here. And I'm going to call the search engine Gmail. And the shortcut for that is also going to be Gmail. And the URL is where I paste what I've just copied. Note that I've got Artemis over here. And that's what I'm going to change with %s. And now I've created myself my own personal Chrome search engine that kicks off by typing in the word Gmail. As you can see, I've created a couple others as well. Here's CNN, because you don't have to stick to Gmail. If I just do CNN and then do Mars, I would be brought to the website of CNN and I would be given all the articles with the word Mars in there. So you can tailor these things quite extensively. I know this is advanced. This is definitely not something you would have probably figured out on your own. But the point I'm trying to make is the whole reason that Gmail and all of Workspace is so crazy powerful is because it is working in a browser. So many people go like, yeah, I like the app. Well, there are definitely reasons for liking an app, but there's also definitely reasons for liking things to be web-based, and all of Workspace, including Gmail, is obviously that. If you want to do this trick, just take the recording, wind back to half an hour, that's where it starts, and try and do it yourself, because I know that was fast and a little bit quick, but it's actually quite doable. So back to Gmail. There's a couple more things we need to discuss. We've gone over how to organize your life in Gmail, by clicking on the gear icon over here and making it a priority inbox, and what these labels were all about. So remember, they're not folders, they're labels. And the best way to apply a label to an email is not to drag the email to the label, but actually do that the other way around, drag the label to the email, and then you can see that you've actually got way more flexibility in keeping track of what you're doing. And color the things, because that makes it a little bit more visible. On the right-hand side of the screen, it's actually kind of new. We have this side panel, and that side panel has a couple of tricks up its sleeve as well. First of all, you can get to your calendar. That's nice. In this demo environment, my calendar is shockingly empty. Don't worry, I have a social life, but that's in another Gmail account. So calendar is right over there, and also Google Keep. And if you haven't tried it out, Google Keep is way more powerful than you might think. It's your yellow sticky note application that you can just go to by going to keep.google.com or pick it from the application drawer over here. That's where it should always be, like there. There we go. And Google Keep is your note-taking application. And actually, these notes seem very simple, but they've got a couple of nice tricks up their sleeve. You could, for example, have notes with reminders. You can even be reminded once your phone enters a certain space. What I've done, for example, I have created a shopping list, and that actually shows up on my phone as soon as I'm close to the supermarket. Why not? You can just do this and say, I want to be at it's called Jumbo in the Netherlands. So Jumbo in Vleuten, that's nearby, and I could now make this thing pop up as soon as I'm close to the supermarket. Would work anywhere. Google Keep Notes are like your visible clipboards on the left-hand side of your, right-hand side of your screen. Play around with it. It's really cool stuff. Maybe next time, if we do Drive, I'll do a little bit of a session on Google Keep as well. But just note that you've got it here. Google Keep can recognize text in pictures. It can recognize what's in pictures even. All sorts of nice and handy stuff. Especially powerful if you also install it on your mobile device. Right down below is actually something that's even more powerful, and that is the tasks option. And what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually pick up an email and drag it into tasks to create a task out of that email. You can give it an expiry date, for example, tomorrow with the time. I want to be reminded at 9 in the morning. And I could type in a couple more details if I wanted to and be done with it. If I go to my calendar for tomorrow, you would see that that email is actually now being placed here in my calendar. And I can also click on, I'll zoom in. because this is obviously not really readable. Click on View Related Email, and it would bring me to the email I need to deal with right away. It's a really nice way of making sure that you've got these mails that are going to be somewhere in your calendar to be reminded. I need to do something with that. That's the easiest way actually of doing it. Be sure if you do this, you pick up the email, drag it over there, and then you've created one. Be sure to give it a date and a time. I'm going to do the 18th now. And be sure to have turned on reminders over here. If you don't, reminders and tasks actually. If you don't have that, you won't see them. So if you think, hey, it's not working for me, be sure to at least turn on tasks to see that these things are there. Reminders are for something else. If it doesn't have a time, it will show up as a daily task. You can make it repeatable and do all sorts of cool stuff with that. Right, I saw a question pop up quickly, I think. Was it a question? Let me quickly see. There's the chat gone. Over there. Judy had the same question. If you go to settings, inbox, and pick default, I meant to unread first. Yeah, that's the point. As soon as you back to that, if you go pick something besides default, then those categories go away. If you want to customize the categories, just click on customize and you can do that. Sidestep. To the right, we also have the contacts, and that's also nice, especially if you, for example, let me do Ellen, a colleague of mine. If I have an email by somebody, then this contacts tab would immediately give you the information about the people in the email, which is also quite nice. You can click on that, and you can also see what other mails these people have been sending you. So this is kind of a nice thing to have. I kind of have this open all day, so that whenever I pick emails, for example, Ricardo, that I can immediately, when I click on that email, see, I'm in that email, Ricardo is in that email, and this is that other email that he sent me. So you quickly get an overview of, hey, what was the entire conversation that I was having with this person all about? It brings more value to what you're looking at. So this is a nice thing to keep open. That's the contacts thing. If you want to, you can even get more, but the 4 that Google will give you by default are right over there. Actually, I would just keep the calendar or the contacts open at all time. Just keep an eye on what's going on. Unfortunately, you can't do both. That's not possible. But pick one, and especially this one is a really nice feature to have handy. Good. So that's the sidebar. Actually, if we click on the gear icon once more and scroll all the way down, then we have the conversation view. And that's also something I quickly want to touch upon. I know that some of you hate the fact that Gmail tends to group emails together if they are back and forth conversation between people. There's a very valid reason for that. The reason is search, actually. If you have an email that is a back and forth conversation. Let me see if I can quickly pull one up. Let's go here. Here you see an email. I'll zoom in by Google and note that it has a little 4 here. Can you see that? It has this little 4. And that means that this is not one email. It's actually 4 emails, and they're grouped together in a conversation. There's a reason for that. The reason is that it makes sense. If you think about modern ways of communicating, for example, WhatsApp, you don't have your messages all separate. Everything is grouped together in conversations. But in mail, it's kind of a weird thing to do. But by default, Google has it. What gets people thrown off is the fact that the order is kind of strange, because the newest mail is down below. So the oldest mail, the first one, is right up here. And then if we scroll through, like reading through the conversation, all these emails are being placed underneath each other, with the newest one being down below. of what's happening in these emails right now. I'm pretty sure that you've been in the situation where there's an email, you send it to somebody, you get it back, you send an email again, you send it back, you get an email again, you send it back, and then you think to yourself, and now I need to forward this to somebody else, but not that one section. So you go in, you scroll down, and then you figure out that all the content of these emails has been copied into that email over and over and over again. And actually, at this point, you can go into an email and per email figure out whether or not you want to send the content of whatever came after it with that email. I'll zoom out to make it visible, so don't worry about the text. What you can see here is that my new email message is happening right here in the middle. So here's an email down below, and there's also emails above. But at this point of the conversation, this moment in time is where my reply happens. That means that whatever came after that point in time is not going to be copied into the email. So you're in control all of a sudden. If you want to check, you can make your life horrible by clicking on these 3 dots over here. And then it would show you what is actually going to be sending across. So now I've got a list of emails in a list of emails. And this is where people go like, this is crazy. I don't want to work like this. I am confused right now and I want to turn it off. So I'm going to click on the gear icon, scroll all the way down and de-click the conversation view. And that's such a shame because you've just turned off a very powerful feature. And that's the ability to be precise about what you want to send across when you reply to a chain of emails. There's another important thing. The conversations show up in search results. If I do a search and I only get separate email messages, they might not make much sense. I might end up with an email that states, yeah, great plan. What? Why? What's the great plan? If you've got conversation view turned on, you can see what came before and after that email as well. So I would recommend you to keep it on. If you can't live with it, turn it off. There's no good or bad. If you don't like it, all the way down here, conversation view. Another thing, especially people that have used Outlook for a long time, is the reading pane. If I click right of inbox, then I get a reading pane on the right-hand side of my screen. So if I were to pick an email and click on it, I would immediately see the contents to the right. I can drag this thing around, and it kind of looks like that mail program from that company called Microsoft. And that's why it's there, just to make sure that the Outlook folks feel a little bit more comfortable with Gmail. So yeah, cool function. If you want to have it down below, pick horizontal split. I've never really seen anybody use this one for reasons, but the vertical split is there. You can turn it off and on as you see fit. Another nifty trick, it's not really a trick, but it's definitely applicable to Perkins. If you are in Gmail and you are not in a place where you can type, so for example, the search bar, you click outside of that, and you type the question mark on your keyboard, you will get a list of the shortcuts available in Gmail. If you're going to be spending a lot of time in Gmail, this might be worth having a look at because you can quickly navigate basically everything. As you can see here, quickly go to, for example, add CC recipients, Shift and C. Go to the inbox, G and I. There's a whole bunch of these, depending on where you are. I'm on a Mac, so some things might be looking a little bit Apple-like. But for example, G, then I gives me go to inbox. G, then S gets me start conversations. Well, let's give it a try. They are enabled. So I'm going to type on my keyboard G, S. Not there because that's where I can type. So if I'm here, G, S, and I will jump into start right away. That's an even quicker way of getting to where you want to be. You won't learn everything by heart rather quickly. There's loads of options, but if you want to have an overview, actually works in most of the Google Workspace applications. Just click on the question mark on your keyboard, and then you will find it. Make sure that the shortcuts are enabled. That's over here. You can enable and disable them. Good. Let's go to something else, and that's called chat and spaces, also part of Gmail these days. I want to quickly go through with 11 minutes on the clock, but this is actually kind of a look into the future as well. If we go to the left-hand side of the screen, we can click on chat. And I'm pretty sure that most of you have already done something with this. I can just start typing there. And actually, I would say that this is a better way to communicate with especially colleagues than sending them emails all the time. Especially if it's a person that you work with a lot, like in my case, Ricardo. This is a faster way of communicating. I've seen many organizations where it was almost like an unwritten rule where we would say, internally, you don't email, internally, you chat. Because we don't have to go with hi all the time, and chat is a way faster method of collaborating. Google saw that as well. And that's why they've created a sort of integration with the rest of Workspace into chat and especially in Spaces. So one-to-one, back and forth chats are like this. You just go to chat, you pick a new chat, you find somebody or a group of people, and you start talking away. Note that there's a couple of nice things on the right-hand side here. The most powerful being this little video camera over here that would immediately initiate a video meet link with Ricardo. I only have to click on send. If we both click on this blue box, we can see each other, talk to each other, exchange files, do whatever we want. This is just another Google Meet call. So it's a super quick way of making sure that you quickly reach out to somebody, have a chat, and close it off again. But sometimes you need to work together in little project groups or on something that requires multiple people. In that case, I can highly recommend creating a space. I've already created one, a space about space, and this space has 2 people in there, and the people are, in this case, me and Ricardo. And spaces have topics. So whenever there's a new topic, you can just create a new topic and then do something. So did you see the launch last night? And then let's see what Ricardo comes up with. And these spaces have extra functionalities. You can actually have files in spaces, but you can also assign tasks in spaces. And yes, that's all integrated with tasks in Gmail as well. So if I were to, for example, create a task, I could say something, give it a date and a time, assign it to somebody. In this case, I'm going to assign it to Ricardo, add it, and this would now show up in Ricardo's tasks list on the right-hand side of his Gmail as well. This is a great way of doing a little bit of keeping each other in sync, especially if you integrate it with documents that are stored in Google format on Google Drive, because obviously that integrates quite nicely. So files can be added here as well. So if I were to, for example, point to something or do something with a file, then I can just put it here and just send it across. Share it with the entire group. The sharing settings would automatically be put there, and off you go. And I know, once again, that some of you are now thinking, yeah, but we've got all our project files in a folder with a whole lot of subfolders, and that's where we keep track of everything. Yeah, that's fine. And if you want to do it like that, please continue doing it. But maybe you figured out, and that's what Google definitely thought of, is wouldn't there be a smarter way of keeping everybody in sync? Like what's going on, who's going to be doing what's the communications around everything, and what files are in place to be part of that. That's basically what a space can be. In the next session, that's going to be in about a month, unfortunately. I would have liked to do that tomorrow, but planning couldn't let us do that. We're going to go into how Google Drive works with spaces as well. And that's actually where you hit the magic point where you bring communication, that's Gmail, collaboration, Meet and Spaces, and all of your documents together. And that's where you can actually create quite flexible things that are quite nicely organized to make sure that everybody is in the know and on the same page on whatever is going on. What I always recommend to anybody starting out with this stuff, find a friend or a coworker, create something and just play with it for 15 minutes. That's probably more useful than me talking about all the capabilities and functionalities. Just give it a try. See what happens. See how fast it is. See how well organized it works and how integrated it is. So create yourself a space just to test. Invite a couple of coworkers over, throw some files around, put some emojis in, start a video call, and I'm pretty sure that after a couple of minutes, you're like, hey, this could be really helpful in making my work a little bit better. Obviously, about a year ago, when everybody was still in kind of a pandemic mode, this thing got crazy popular all of a sudden because people were working from home, from anywhere, and all that stuff. And I can attest from firsthand that working like this is actually quite nice. Within the Google practice at Wipro, this is the way to do things. We don't work in folders on file systems anymore. We have our spaces. That's where everything happens. That's where we assign each other tasks, and that's where we keep each other informed. Again, search is going to be powerful there. If I search for Mars over here, I can go into my mail messages, into my chat messages, into my spaces. This was a bad example. Go to Artemis again. And you will see that you would get the results that you're after. So this also gives you an integrated way of doing this, because even here in my email, I can go do a search and it will even tell me here, hey, do you want to see that in chat? Yeah, there you go. And now I've got my chat results right in Gmail. And if I were to search in Spaces, for example, and there would be something there, then I could have that as well. It is possible to work with external people in Spaces, but that's an admin setting. It might not be enabled for you. But you can already guess where this is going, right? If somebody has a Gmail account, you can invite them into a space and start working with them. It doesn't even have to be workspace. Gmail account could be enough. And at this point in time, there's about 3.7 billion people in the world with a Gmail account, making Workspace the most capable collaborative tool out there. You can basically invite anybody in, because you'll be hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't have a Gmail account somewhere. So there's ways to do this, and this is definitely the track that Google is on. So what you will see in the near future is that Gmail, especially the web version of Gmail, so don't pull your email into other systems, but use Gmail. You will see that Gmail is going to be like your start page for everything you've got to do. Your tasks are there. Your incoming email is there. You've got quick links to your calendar. You can quickly go to your documents. It's even possible to work in documents right in chat. You don't even have to go to Google Docs or Drive or whatever anymore. It's going to be a let's work together environment that is centered around Gmail. So getting to grips with Gmail could be very beneficial, and especially if you want to do that, get to grips with search. Don't underestimate search. And it's actually a nice way, and it saves loads of time to find stuff by using search instead of keeping everything in folders on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm not going to say it's bad, and there's definitely situations where it makes sense, but whenever search is useful, I would definitely use it over creating a folder structure. With only 3 minutes to go, that's roughly my talk. Are there any questions? This is your chance. Go for it. Joe.
Hello there.
Hi there.
Hi. I'd just like to quickly circle back to the email thread issue.
Yeah.
Many times I'm communicating with my colleagues here at Perkins, plus some outside vendors.
Yeah.
Many times I negotiate proprietary information that I don't necessarily want the vendor to see in the email thread.
Yeah.
How do I block them from seeing it?
By replying at the right point. Remember that I showed that there was a thread of multiple Gmails that I've got somewhere over here. Let me find another one. Let me click on all mail over here. Probably find some. Doesn't happen that often in my private email box. Well, let me just talk you through it.
Okay.
What you've got is a list of Gmail messages. So the point where you reply is going to be of importance. I want to show you this properly, so I'm going to go to yet another mail account. See what I've got here. Here's a good one, 6 of them. So what you've got here is 6 email messages. So let's say that the whole thread that you've had with your coworkers happens underneath the first one. So this is a internal mail. This is where you discuss some price. Then there's somebody replies back. It's a little bit expensive. Note that on the right-hand side of the screen, every single email has its own reply button. So if I pick the top one, the first one, and click on reply, note that my reply is positioned right under the first email, meaning that I'm not going to send across everything that came after. This is just the first email that content is in here, but not everything else. So the point where you click reply, the level of email in that thread or in that conversation is actually also dictating what's going to be sent across. So the higher up, the better. However, you still are in control as well. So if I want nothing in there, I could just take out this whole big email that was the first email and just take it out apart from the last one, which is our URL, and just send this across. So you still have that visibility by clicking on those 3 dots. I know I was fast there.
How did you take it out? How did you just take out the previous?
Select it, and then I'll do it once more. Hold on. So got my mail. I'm going to go to the third one now. I'm going to click on reply in the third one. Here we go. And that's where I get my email. So I start typing hello and hello in Dutch. And I must now trust that Google has only placed the mails before, so above, in this email as well. Everything below is not in this email. To check, I can click on these 3 dots. But warning, things get complicated now. Because now it shows me what I'm actually going to be sending across in this box. And that is including the history that came before. So that's these extra mails that were up top. If I want to get something out of there, it's editable. I could just go in and hit backspace and take it out. And if I now click send, that content won't be sent across.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So it takes a little bit of getting used to. And actually, not so long ago, I was at an event at Google, and we were talking about the question that was most asked by end users regarding Gmail. And the most asked question to Google is, how can we please turn off the conversation view? The second question is, can we make sure that it is flipped around so that the newest mail is up top and the oldest one is down below? And both are things that Google is not going to change. So it has to do with a whole concept of how to think about conversations and all that stuff. It goes way too deep for now, but that's how you do it. We're running out of time, so I'm going to just say a few more questions. No? If not, keep them for next time, maybe. And yes, definitely go Oranje anytime.
Thank you very much, Eric. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the rest of your day. Recording is with Mr. David Dothery. So he'll have the